Absenteeism is about how many days workers are having off, and it's really easy to monitor because you can monitor the number of days off. But really, we're not seeing whether these workers are really sick or not. 85% of workers taking a day off are going to say that it's sick leave. So if 85% of the days are counted as sick leave, you could either have some really damn sick employees who are getting sick all the time, and in which case there might be a workplace health and safety issue. We just get rid of the asbestos in the office. But it's difficult to monitor whether they're really sick or whether they're just having the day off because they don't like your HR policies. If you, say, have a really nasty, manager, you might take days off just to avoid that manager. So you need to look at this as an indicator of effectiveness, as an indicator, because they might just genuinely be sick, or it might be swine flu season, and these people are taking days off because they are genuinely sick. And really, it's not even good to a good HR policy to constantly question and ring them up all day and just say, "Are you still sick? Are you still sick? I don't believe that you're sick. You don't sound sick." That sort of thing is just going to make them angrier and make them want to take even more days off, or when they do come to work, they're going to be even angrier and they're not going to do their work properly. In terms of what the business costs are, it costs about $385 a day for each sick day. Now that is included in how much it costs to replace that person, but it also, each sick day is actually costing the business because they have to pay the worker while they're having a sick day, unless they're a casual worker, in which case they don't pay them at all. But if they are a full-time worker, and this is why you don't really want full-time workers as a business owner, because of the costs of things like sick leave. What do you compare it to? What's a good level of absenteeism? Well, the generally accepted level of absenteeism is about 6.5 days of sick leave per year. Now, a teacher would find that disgusting. Like, teachers have about 150,000 sick days a year. No, we don't really, but we have a lot of sick days because you kids are disgusting and you always make us sick. But an acceptable level in a normal industry is about 6.5 days of sick leave per year. Like, you also have like holiday leave and all that sort of stuff, and that's not necessarily the maximum amount of leave that you can take, but some people will take the maximum number that they can possibly take. And it's fine to lose about 6.5 days a year per worker, but for a large business that might have 20,000 employees, that's a lot of days lost. In Australia, the average is 9.4 days a year, so it's really not at an acceptable level, for business owners, and they would argue that we need to have a lower number of available sick days. So they try to, they'll say, right, we'll give you an extra 40 cents an hour if you sacrifice, 6 of your sick days, to try and get workers, to have less sick leave. I would argue that it's probably good for workers to have a few days off here and there, because they might just go crazy if they're at work every single day. It's probably not good for workers to be there every single day anyway. I know they have like holiday leave and stuff like that, but unless your job is particularly enjoyable and doesn't have a lot of stress at all, it's probably good to have a day to recharge the batteries and all that. They often call them mental health days. What does it say about your HR strategies if workers are having a lot of days off? Well, it might be a problem of job design. If you're using general tasks or you're using specific tasks, maybe your workers are disengaged. And disengaged workers have an absenteeism rate that's about 27% higher than their engaged peers. And that's quite a lot. Like, if you do that over the whole organization, that becomes a really, really big problem. And you could be losing millions of dollars. So you do need to look at it. Maybe you need to go from a specific task where people just do very challenging tasks, but very specifically, to general tasks. So they're not as bored. Maybe it's a job design problem. Maybe they're bored, disengaged. Maybe they don't feel connected to what they're doing. Maybe they do need specific tasks because their tasks are too general at the moment. So you need to look at job design. You'd also need to look at the leadership style and all the working conditions. If workers have little control over their work, if they're not allowed to really take time off when they need it, the average absences can increase to about 20 days a year, and that's a lot. And that's for a lot of people, they don't even have 20 days a year of sick leave, so they have to take like unpaid leave. So it becomes a real problem. If your worker really hates you so much, or hates their direct manager so much and their leadership style, that they're willing to take unpaid leave to stay away from them, that they're so stressed out by them, maybe that's a problem with leadership style rather than the worker themselves. Maybe it's the working conditions, maybe it's the hours or something like that. You need to look at that. It could also be that it's an employment contract problem. So you can see I've got here all the yellow things, obviously syllabus dot points. The employment contract was under the legal influences. Maybe the employment contract has 20 days a year sick leave, so workers are just going to take it. Maybe you want to renegotiate the enterprise agreement to exchange extra wages for fewer days of leave, and it might actually end up saving you money in the end.